Merci, Monsieur Violette Geissen.
Thank you very much. Mr. Loiseau? Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. I'd like to ask a question to Professor Geissen too. You said in your written responses that there were problems relating to the soil. I am a farmer. Can you tell me about the long-term impact of glyphosate on flora and fauna and soil? In general terms, do you think that it is actually a soil pollutant in the medium term and the long term? And as to substitutes, something that we haven't focused on yet during our hearings is the way farmers are often treated as polluters, and yet we don't have a reasonable alternative. Certain pesticides can be imposed on us because of yield requirements, and sometimes there are economic considerations which require us to use certain things. So if glyphosate implies certain other steps, then what would you recommend in phytosanitary terms? What sort of alternatives could we consider that would not pose an additional burden on farmers? Do you think that there are realistic alternatives and realistic techniques? And if so, what would they be, so that we could guarantee that the same cost benefit and cost efficiency ratios for farmers that exist today could be maintained?
Okay, answer in English. There are alternatives, and that is the interesting thing. What happens with glyphosate? What do I explain just to tell about the effect? I don't know whether you have the same experiences as other farmers, that the soil life is completely in imbalance after years and years of glyphosate application due to the, what do you have as cultivations?
Moi, je suis céréalier, je cultive beaucoup de...
I mainly am cultivating colza, maize, wheat and barley. I'm essentially an arable farmer, but I'm just making these observations because I know that I do use chemical fertilizers, and I don't think that the phytosanitary products I use have an impact on the soil, but I do understand from a chemical point of view that there can be concentrations over the time. I haven't seen any obvious impact on the soil, so that's what I would like to hear about. And everybody talks about pesticides. It's something that I don't really agree with, because phytosanitary products obviously are not
from pest. I don't. We can call it differently. I just wanted to say that for example, in Switzerland and in Denmark, they now have developed robots, which by infrared detect the weeds in the field. So they go in the fields, and then they detect these by infrared, these weeds you don't want to have in your fields. And then they have techniques. They either, if it's deep rooting weeds, they take it out with a kind of I don't know how to call this, yeah. And if it is very low, with low roots, they take it out with a knife. These robots cost 5,000 euro. They are small, like bobby cars for children. You may know them. They have the same form. These are as well developed in the Netherlands. And they take hands out, making these photos. You can do the weed control in the rows. If you have, for example, mice, you do it in the rows because they are programmed in a way that they know that mice plants have a certain distance, 30 centimeters. If in between the mice plant you find a weed, they take it out. They have as well robots who don't not apply glyphosate in the whole area, in the whole field, but these robots as well detect by infrared exactly where the weeds are, and then they spray 1 point of glyphosate. And I always say this is a modern way of farming to go exactly to the place where you have a problem, and there you treat. It's the same as endoscopic medicine. Yeah, they don't cut your whole belly to take out something. Now they make it endoscopically, and the same thing we can do in modern agriculture. And the costs are not higher than if you have once bought these robots. This is one investment, and this is we know that the CAP is now new organized somehow. So sustainable farming if you get an input investment or help from the government, this is a future, a sustainable future, and an alternative for glyphosate.